and I have no problem.
Kauai was the island we wanted.
The problem is they get to know you.
They didn't know because I was running too fast. They never got to me. Okay, is everybody here? Are we waiting for anybody? Oh, Diane.
I think she's getting it.
Oh, you're right there.
Right there.
I saw someone run out and I couldn't tell who it
The
was.
same thing happened last time we had a meeting like that. You looked
It
at
happened.
Oh,
Okay, so at 10 o'clock, we're calling the meeting to order, and approval, we need approval of the agenda for today's meeting.
I'll move.
Moved
I
by-
actually have something to say. And I spoke with the administrator about this, about the vote for the salary and budget increase. I think that requires a little discussion. So we talked about possibly changing it from vote to discussion, and then voting at the next board meeting.
Since it was already presented at a past board meeting,
Well, what wasn't presented was the job description, the revised.
all the information about it.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure, and I just feel like I'm not informed enough until we actually have a little more discussion. Since this is a special board meeting, I thought maybe we could discuss it and then vote on it at the next board meeting in 10 days, because I just got my hands on the job description, and I do have some questions. So that was my only change to the agenda, but...
Okay,
I have a comment too.
sure.
I'll chime in too. I want to say a few words at the opening of this September 26th. I'll give you a copy of this special meeting, because I am troubled by the very fact that our community is being called to turn out for a special meeting with the regular meeting less than 2 weeks off, and no item on this agenda being, at first glance, a life or death issue. Special meetings have a valid role in community affairs, but in my experience on watching and participating in MRRTD meetings over the past 5 years, we have had maybe one a year for an emergency approval of some county deadline. But as what was brought out at our last meeting by public comment, this strategy to limit public involvement is becoming abusive and is now being perceived as a tactic to circumvent public discussion and hide awareness of what is going on in our community, specifically with our tax dollars. I object to the meeting time, midweek at 10 a.m., which excludes 80% of our constituency. I object to the misuse of the special meeting facility, which should apply to dire emergencies, not the vote on whether to give our administrator 45 cents a mile from Burnwood Park to come to work. This could be decided on October 8th and made retroactive. I'm all for it. Not whether to change over to Capri for our workman's comp claims. That's routine red tape. Not on whether some contractor, name unknown to me prior to voting on them, should receive an approved contract. And certainly not on whether to open yet another new bank account. I object to the calling of this meeting as an abuse of the power of the chair. This is getting to be a classic divisive case of two radically different points of view on civil governance. This was brought to mind to me last week when I volunteered to help a do-gooder toward their admirable, in my mind, end. Community cleanup. Seems like everyone is for it. Last weekend was River Cleanup Weekend. My do-gooder was cleaning up on the east side of Monte Rio by picking up cigarette butts, beer cans, and trimming bushes hanging in the road. Okay, that's the Democratic view, the greatest good for the community. There is a valid Republican view. They were encroaching on private property and making unilateral decisions on what was best for someone else's property. Since the resignation of Susie Shafford, there has been a radical shift in attitude towards public outreach. There's more focus on running the district as a business, ruling by fiat, and avoiding as much contact with our constituency as possible. Ruling is the operative word here, not representation of the Monte Rio constituency. And by the way, they called the sheriff on my do-gooder.
Can I address just a couple points before other
Is this
people
going to be a
have...
public discussion?
No, it's just thank you.
I just
Hey, Diane,
No,
okay.
we'll get this just his statement. Okay, so you had a motion on the floor and you had one change in it. So we need a second and the change of dollars, and we'll go on and a vote on it. So is there a second on the approval of the agenda?
I will second it with the change requested.
Okay, so that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, roll call. I would say all 5 directors are here. Okay, public comment. Anybody have public comment? Limited to 3 minutes. Yes?
Just a brief comment. I think it's important that the board announce at all meetings that are being videotaped, that the audience be made aware of that. I don't think they have been at this point.
Okay, so everybody in the room knows that the video is on or being taped. Okay?
Is that one public comment?
Yeah, do you want one?
Sure I do.
Thank you.
I am wondering when the bathrooms, the fish and game bathrooms are going to be reopened.
We actually just talked about that in the last meeting, and we're working on that right now.
That's
We'll
not
let
an
you know.
answer, nobody knows? Is
No, I
there-
said we're working on that. We're looking at what it costs to keep the other ones going and what it's going to cost to fix these up. And as soon as we have that question answered, then we'll get right on it and hopefully get it done.
So you know what your porta potties are costing you?
Yes.
Well, how much are they costing you?
$200 a month.
$200 a month for the one.
Correct.
I mean, that's the only one I've seen.
The one with the service, correct.
Okay. Okay, so it's $200 a month. And the reason why the physical fish and game bathrooms are closed, you have a contract with Fish and Game to keep those bathrooms opened and maintained. Is that not correct? Is that not what the contract says?
It's not to, we have to maintain those bathrooms, and that's our problem right now, is we need to repair and maintain the bathrooms.
And the problem with the bathrooms, other than the tagging, is?
They're destroying the interior. They're taking the
sinks,
fixtures.
the ADA sink, all the fixtures have been taken.
Those were
The toilets
taken.
are broken, we've got some septic problems.
The septic problems are interesting to me. The fact that fixtures are missing, since they've been missing for well over a year,
No,
is
no.
not. Oh, yes.
Well,
Clean the bathrooms for more than a year.
I understand.
Absolutely for more than a
The
year.
ADA is more recent, it hasn't been missing
No,
for a
the
year.
sink in the ADA bathroom has never worked as long as I've worked it when I was working for the district, and I worked for the district for more than a year. I've never seen that sink function.
So to answer your question,
Yes.
as soon as we get all our facts and figures together, matter of fact, the last meeting, we already talked about repairing them. We found some more.
You have
fixes.
so many meetings, it's really difficult for me to get to them.
Also, Zella, just to clarify, the board agreed to keep them through the end of October when we originally planned this, made this change. So it was brought up in the facilities meeting, and we ran long because of this meeting. So it's being put on the agenda for October 11th is our next facilities meeting, and we'll make a decision about comparing the numbers and what it's going to cost to get the bathrooms repaired. So originally our plan was to have the porta potty there until the end of October, and it's only not even October yet. So that kind of answers your question a little bit that you asked about how long it's going to be.
It does, thank you. And what does Fish and Game have to say about all of this? They have a contract with you. Are you fulfilling the contract with the porta potty? Does that work for them?
So far it does, yes.
Okay.
Because they were out inspecting another problem. Told them about it, and they said no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Not on that subject.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, if not, we'll go on to old business, which there isn't any. New business, there isn't any. Any reports and information? No? Okay, then we'll go to action items. Action item 7A is approval of asbestos removal contract for Creekside Park.
So, this is a copy of the proposal that was recommended by the Facilities Committee, and I have 6 copies. There were 2 different asbestos abatement companies that were contacted. They gave us the different proposals. The one that we didn't select was about $24,000 and did not include bonding. Typically, you're not required to have bonding for work that's under $25,000. This proposal is $19,968, and they included a separate item of bonding for $1,100. And I think in the Facilities Committee, we talked about the pros and cons of going with the bonding. And I guess, do you want to give a little background on that?
Sure, I can do that. As normal routine procedure, the bidders provided references, and so we checked into the references from both bidders, and the apparent low bidder, one of the references mentioned the fact, and they're a construction management company that's statewide that does a lot of abatement work associated with schools in particular. And it's their general rule of thumb that they don't typically bond something that is less than $25,000 that involves demolition, because typically the building is going to come down anyway, so if something gets damaged, it doesn't matter. It's kind of a they see it as a bit of a waste of money. The thing I will say is that the bonding does also cover performance, which means that for some reason, if the contractor fails to show up and you're under contract with them, then the bonding agency that is retained through the bond will cover the cost of whatever is the issue that hasn't been addressed. So it's very common in public works to bond, sort of generally across the board. It usually is about 3 to 5% of the cost of construction, so this is sort of in line with where they go. But the discussion at the Facilities Committee was that based on one of the reference conversations was potentially consider not bonding. And that was, I think, where that group landed in terms of the potential of not doing that, just based on the fact that there wasn't really anything to be concerned about damaging, and that the contractor is known to have good standing with all the references that were called. So that in addition to the fact that the scope of work is approximately it's about a week and a half of time essentially to complete the whole of the project. And the way that the billing cycle works is that he's paid at the end. So as was brought up in the Facilities Committee, it's sort of unlikely that he's going to come in and do the work and not finish it and then not bill. So it seemed like it may not be an appropriate scenario. So the demolition contractor is, there's bond involved with that obviously because he is demolishing things that are immediately adjacent to portions of the structure that will remain. So throw that out as just as a discussion point. Both contractors that were considered, they were references from the general demolition contractor because he'll have to work with them in hand because he's part of the demolition as well, and they all meet prevailing wage requirements, meet the insurance and the workers' comp requirements, and there was a full background package that was submitted from this contractor describing all those certifications and compliance regarding OSHA and also the regional air quality control district. So those are the specifics associated with that particular contractor.
So it's the recommendation of the Facilities Committee to go with this contractor and to not go with the bonding, based on the shortness of the job?
So the amount that we would be approving is the 19.9?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So you have a question?
On this? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I find that with a serious and expensive item like the asbestos removal contract at Creekside Park, Chair has not provided sufficient time for deliberation and research, nor provided the sufficient background materials to make a well-considered decision on this important item. I make a motion that this item be carried over to our next regularly scheduled board meeting, October 8th, for discussion and possible action.
Okay. Yeah.
As a member of the Facilities Committee, we spent probably a half hour this morning talking about and going over all this stuff. And consultants have supplied ample documentation comparing these two bidders. And it was agreed upon from the facilities standpoint, and we can show you all of this stuff, that you can provide. This would be the best direction to go. Part of the reason this meeting is being held is the entire board received an email from the administrator with the urgency about this particular item on the agenda, because this one is a timely item to have, and now that we've moved our board meetings to the second, let me finish please, the second Monday of the month, that this is the first thing that has to go, the demolition needs to take place next, and there are time constraints. So that was the purpose of this meeting solely, was to talk about this asbestos item. I believe other things got added because we were meeting, but I too agree that they should not be discussed today. But this is an important situation that has to absolutely be decided as much as possible if we're in agreement today to get this process going instead of waiting another 10 days because we're putting out all of it. There's a format that we have to follow for this.
Was the recommendation developed this morning?
Yes.
Yes.
That being the case, I would like to make a motion to adhere to the rules of the Brown Act and invalidate whatever recommendations were forthcoming from the meeting held this morning as being improperly posted.
I don't think I understand what you mean, Peter. Could you please explain?
About what?
How was it improperly posted?
It's posted for tonight's meeting. As far as the public is aware, this is what's posted, if you'd like to look at it.
But
look at the time.
It's no different than when we have a budget meeting prior to our board meeting and we make decisions based on...
You're not looking at what I just asked you to look at. Look at the time. What is the time that it says?
8:30 p.m.
for,
Instead of AM, it's PM instead of AM.
So as far as the public is aware, there is no meeting until tonight after our...
I don't understand. This says 10 a.m. on this one here. It's a board meeting.
Yeah,
I don't
I think what he's
understand.
saying, no,
It's
we're
not
talking two different things.
facilities
In this
committee
facilities
meeting.
meeting, there was a PM instead of an AM.
Oh, so there's a typo on the agenda.
which is a
As
12-hour.
far as the public awareness, public outreach items, this is an invalid, I mean, yes, it's a mistake, it's a typo.
It is definitely a mistake.
Yes, and therefore, according to the Brown Act, I'm calling for an invalidation of the recommendation, since it was improperly posted and the public was not invited.
Were you aware that this was improperly posted? Did you notice it before a couple of days?
As far as I'm concerned, it was a meeting that was going on tonight. I didn't know, well, the other thing I strongly object to is the fact that this contract wasn't made available to the board for deliberation in advance of this meeting.
That's why we have that's why we have committee levels to be able to give recommendations.
Yes,
So-
I accept the recommendation, but it would have been nice to have had it in the packet before the meeting. This is a board meeting, full board meeting. There's normally a packet procedure, again, covered by the Brown Act, that says, you know, if it's a normal meeting, it's 72 hours in advance. If it's a special meeting, it's 24 hours in advance. This is a supporting piece of documentation for the decision to be made. And it wasn't in my hands 24 hours prior to the meeting. In fact, it wasn't in my hands until the meeting.
And unfortunately, this meeting hasn't happened yet, the facilities meeting, because it's posted for 8:30 tonight.
That's right. So it's an invalid, it's that one, unless you want to have a meeting at 8:30 tonight and we go through it again, then you can make your recommendations there.
Did you want to say something?
I just have a comment on format. The Facilities Committee always meets at 8:30 on a Thursday. I think it's
Wednesday, every other
on
Wednesday.
every other
Yeah, we
Wednesday.
have been
And
through
I
that.
think it's shown as such on the calendar. So, I mean, one could argue that it's merely a typo, or one could go to the extreme of suggesting that it was misrepresented.
It's not, just wait a second.
It's not, I mean, because it wasn't intentional. That's all I'm saying.
Yes,
I'm sure
you
it
have
wasn't
a-
intentional, but it wasn't on the calendar. I was prepared to go tonight.
So my question is, yeah, like, so when did you notice it was PM instead of AM? Just before
That's
this
really
meeting, a couple of
immaterial,
days?
since I-
Well, it is, because
You
you could
are
have
a
helped
board
us change it.
director, and
Yeah,
I
you could
think
have called them and said,
Yeah,
hey,
it seems
I
like,
didn't know what was, nobody had made me aware that a resolution would be coming out of that meeting that we had to vote on. That's not in the details of the agenda for this. I kept expecting a packet to arrive
So,
with this
I guess,
contract.
so just to answer my first question, is you knew a couple of days ago that that was wrong, that AM and PM, and didn't say anything as a board member?
I
That's
know
all
on
I'm asking.
Tuesday. I know
Okay,
on Tuesday.
that's, okay, thank you. So,
So I have a motion on the board.
yeah, he has a motion on the floor. Anybody want to second his motion?
What was the motion? Bring in brief, not repeated the whole thing, just what's
The-
the
The
summary?
the motion is that we invalidate the results, the recommendations of that meeting as being improperly posted.
I don't want to second that, but further discussion. I think regardless of when a meeting took place, the action item that's in front of us is an item that has been discussed and is being recommended by one of our committees. So regardless of when the meeting took place, regardless of the posting issue, I don't think it changes the fact that we can vote on it today. That's my...
well, except for,
My original problem was that it was,
well, in all due
we hadn't
respect,
had time to deliberate it or talk about it or do anything about it. I mean, I didn't, you're throwing it in our face right now. Oh, here's a contract, sign it.
you know, there's such hostility here in your voice. Can I just say
Okay.
something real quick? Because I'm actually on your side on this, okay?
Okay.
I think since the meeting did not actually, I think we would be violating the Brown Act because there was a typo on the agenda. It's a very, very, very unfortunate situation that a city director did not bring it to anyone's attention. I did not notice it. I'm a member of the Facilities Committee. I take for granted that we meet at 8:30 in the morning. So with that said, I think that there's going to be lots of conflict and red flags, and I'm not sure how to amend that.
I think we meet at 8 o'clock tonight.
I will be
8:30
happy to
tonight.
meet at
Come
8:30
back?
tonight.
Well, no, just the
Yeah, just the
facilities
facilities
committee. That's
committee.
the only
And
issue.
then you'll repost and have another board meeting so that we can get this through, so that we can. once it's
Exactly.
been publicly
And
noticed.
once again, that was the urgency, was the asbestos contract. So if we need, because of that unfortunate mistake, I think we need to address that and take responsibility for it and meet again tonight at 8:30, the facilities committee. So that would make, that's...
Yeah, that's all we can do to, will that rectify the situation?
Yes.
Okay, well then, this meeting here, then
Just adjourn.
we're gonna, okay, it's 10:20, we'll adjourn this meeting now until we we'll go through it again.
Well, can you address the workers' comp issue?
Is
That
that-
is another urgency.
How
I don't
urgent is
think
that?
you...
Can we wait till the regular board meeting for that?
It's urgent.